Now it's all about winning, or more about winning with digital, winning audience and revenues with data journalism. Learn how Kommunal Rapport, is it? That's Norwegian, I'm not very good at it. Kommunal Rapport's award-winning data journalism holds politicians to account, engages readers and provides strong digital revenue growth. Ole Petter Pedersen, he's the news editor at Kommunal Rapport from Norway. Very happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, let me try to engage the audience a bit more. How many of you work in a media industry that basically started out on paper originally? Hands up. Okay, that's quite a few. Actually, some who didn't. Maybe you don't work in the media. How many of you who started out as a paper have, over the last 10 years, created an editorial product that has nothing to do with the original paper in content and are actually selling it to your readers today? Interesting. Several. Good. Several more than I actually expected. That's very interesting. Because that is basically what we have been doing at Kommunal Rapport. We are from Norway, and this is Norway. There's not many people around. There's a lot of snow most of the year. Actually, some parts of Norway have snow 12 months a year. And basically not very many people come there to live. But if you ever get the idea, this is what it looks like. Kommunal Rapport, we are very small in this conference. We're probably one of the smallest media companies that actually give a speak or even are here. Turnover-wise, we are on about 30 million Norwegian kroner, which is roughly 3.3 million euros, which probably is a small change to some people. We are niche. We work basically covering local governance. And in Norway, there are lots of local municipalities, which is good for us because that creates a readership. And we are basically a national newspaper covering this niche. Founded many, many years ago, went online, and in 2010, we had our first digital success with data journalism that actually also created a very interesting revenue stream. And of course, we have to talk about money these days on journalism conferences. Since then, we've gone from one product to the other. And last year, we even expanded into actually recruiting a programmer into our editorial staff. We can't do without him. And in 2010, we had one product. It was on paper-based. It came out to the readers if actually the distribution company wanted it that way. And we sort of hoped that people would subscribe once a year. In 2017, we are up to 8 different various editorial products. 7 of them are only digital, and most of them are basically impossible to replicate in print, which is why digital is a fantastic source of income for us, and also a fantastic opportunity for good, important journalism. Our company is small, as I said, 30 million kroner. Total income has grown 40% since 2010. I just saw actually yesterday there's 20% growth the last 2 years. So percent-wise, we outdo Bloomberg, which is not too bad. Everything comes from digital. Every krona, and that increase comes from digital, and virtually all of it also comes from content. We're now about on by February 2017. 38% is digital revenue. Actually, we underestimate the digital revenue, but I'll get back to that on another speech. My prediction for 2020, we're going to be somewhere between 55 and 70% of our revenue, which will be around where we are today, or probably higher, will be digital. And that also all depends on how quickly the paper dies. And hopefully we'll keep the paper alive as long as we can, but that's not really the interesting part for the future. Sorry. We just posted record profits for 2016. We made a healthy profit. We increased the staff. So journalism is an interesting part. Not making money, that's important, but it's not really the fun thing. We are a small media company. We just increased our business, our editorial staff over the last few years. We put all the resources into creating more journalism, because by making more journalism, good journalism, we create the possibility to make more money and create more revenue for the owners. And basically, it all works in a 24-month period. Each project we've done since 2010 has had a 24-month period. We need a few months to get started. You need a few months to introduce things to the readers, and then we need a few months to actually start monetizing what we've just done. This has been a success every step of the way, increasing staff, increasing revenue, increasing sales, which leads to a 40% increase in total revenue. And more importantly for me as a news editor is, of course, that over the last 12 months, we gained 5 major national awards for our journalism, which is very, very nice. Obviously, there are far too many journalism awards, but still, it's nice to get one when we actually do. And the strategy to making all this happen is to use big data in order to expose, or should be probably reveal for better English, reveal facts about what's happening in our niche market. We live in a complex world, and basically a journalist needs to be specialized in a bigger way than before. More journalists needs to have a specialized skill. You can't really be just an all-rounder anymore, just running after fire engines. That's not really interesting. And big data, that gives you the oversight and the details. I'll give you 3 examples in a moment. And this is important, that you need to combine the data with the intelligent journalism. It's so incredibly possible today to create loads of visualizations, loads of graphics that doesn't really tell you anything. You need to tell the reader also via the digital channels, why is this important to me? What is the point of these data? Last week, huge amount of data came out from the local municipalities of Norway. It happens every year. Someone has to tell the people which numbers are interesting and which tell a story. No one does that better than journalists who are good at explaining and finding out what the news is. Automation is going to be a speech later about automation, and we do automation in a very interesting way. We turn from national newspaper into local newspaper thanks to automation and create a lot of money. This is one case study. We do our own measurement of the local municipalities, which are our core readers, and we rank them from top to bottom, telling them you suck basically, or you are really good. And this is very interesting, obviously, just as a news story. This municipality is the best one, and this is the worst one. What we also do is, by using automation, we create an analysis of each of these municipalities. So we create about 7,000-word stories on each single municipality in an hour, which is about 3 million words, slightly more than the average journalist would produce over probably a lifetime. And that sells itself, basically. The municipalities, even those who are trashed in our analysis, wants to buy this product because we analyze their performance way better than any consultants, and we do it with an editorial standpoint. We write whatever we want, which is a great strength and a great way to make people come back to us and want to subscribe. Obviously, a good thing is that we are niche. It makes it easier to understand who is our core readers and who do we want to reach. But basically, the principles can be applied, I think, a lot of other places. The second case study, which is one that anyone can do in any country with any kind of Freedom of Information Act, is our vendors database. We create a database where we actually map all private and public suppliers to all the municipalities in Norway. This doesn't exist until we started collecting the data. The data are in the public domain, but no one collects them. So now we have a database that can actually be a foundation for investigative journalism, and which is as we speak. And the problem is, of course, that if you want to know which politician actually profited the most from trading with his own municipality last year, you can call up 426 municipalities in Norway or 11,000 in France and ask them, which is impossible. So you need big data in order to actually be able to analyze where the money goes. And basically, we have 3 data sets: all suppliers, all shareholders, all politicians. When you combine those three data, it is a lot easier to identify interesting cases where politicians have stakes in companies that sell to the municipalities, which may be all good and well, but not necessarily so. All these data are public, and you would think it would be easy to get. Some we collect ourselves. Some we've been fighting 2.5 years to actually get the shareholders' database, which is now thankfully public. And we get good stories. And also what happens is that now we have a database that no one else has. And it tells people who are actually the great vendors, the sellers to the municipalities, and how much money they make, and what the turnover is. And of course, quite a few people want that information, so we sell that as well. We've done some stories ourselves. We're going to break a story in the next few days as well about this. And we do this basically because we want to do investigative journalism. That is the point. The second point, which is also nice, but not as important, is that it also creates something that no one else has. And everyone can do this in other countries as well. Collect the data, put them out there, and do some good journalism. And you will probably find that some people would be very likely to pay a high amount of money to get access to that information as well in a good structure. Yes, we're also going to do a case study now where we're going to map all employees of the municipalities. This we're not going to sell. It's just going to be for journalism. But it will be very interesting to look at employee behavior and see which municipalities are actually have the most stable and unstable work group. Could be very, very interesting, revealing things that it's impossible to do unless you have the data sets that are actually telling you everything about the people who work in the municipalities, which is thankfully a matter of public record in Norway. One thing that we've learned over the last few years is that we need to stop worrying about the newspaper. We need to look at all the fantastic opportunities that the digital technologies do to journalism and to new ways to making money. And we also thankfully freed ourselves from the idea that we have to keep the same revenue stream from the same people all the time in the future. We can create new revenue streams from other people and also create other products that the people who buy the newspaper also want to buy. So why should we sell them all at one price? We rather sell several things to people to create more revenue. So we need new ideas, which we have a few new ideas. I've gotten a couple today and yesterday. The basic is that we basically need huge data sets in order to get the overview, because then you can really start to do the journalism and look at where are the interesting findings instead of just calling around. And of course, as a newspaper covering local municipalities, our basic journalistic urgency is to look at how money is spent and misspent in municipalities. That is basically what this evolves around all the time for us. For other papers, it could be other things, but it's very important to keep it close to the core idea of the newspaper. A lot of talk on this conference about transitions and organizational changes. We haven't really done any. All the journalists, they work for both digital and for a newspaper, and some of them also work on the other products that we create. One thing is certain for me, though, it's very, very unlikely that I'm going to hire anyone over the next few years that do not have some sort of data skills. We hired the developer last year. He works as a journalist, very, very important. He's not a coder that's going to be sitting in a corner in the newsroom or show up at 12 o'clock and do something that no one else knows what is. He works as a journalist. He just uses programming as his journalistic method. And we need those kind of, that kind of knowledge in order to improve the newsroom for the future. Change every day, and et cetera, et cetera. So basically, we've done well so far. What we can't do is believe that we sort of solved it. You know, all the digital products that exist, The problem with them, of course, is that it's very, very easy for someone else to come around and do something better and just take you out from one year to the next. So, which was impossible basically when you had the newspaper industry, where it was basically impossible to create something new. Digital, very easy to create new and do better. So unless we do our the best all the time, and we need to learn really, really fast, hence the 24-month period maximum of our projects. Because if you can't really do it in 24 months, will you really ever be able to do it? That is a big question for us. The things we do when we go and start new revenue streams from an editorial content is that we say that if we think that this can make 1 million kroner for us, which is, small change for Arno, for a lot of you, that is sort of the threshold. It needs to be able to do that within a certain time frame. Otherwise, it's not really worth doing as a revenue stream. It might be worth doing journalistically, which is something else completely, but it's not necessarily something you can gain new buying subscribers from. We don't really do much. We don't really target the general audience a lot. We like it when our stories break nationally, of course. But basically, people just pass through. They don't really leave any money behind. And they're not really that important. It's much more important for us to have 80, 90, 100% readership among our core group rather than being big. And I think that's very important for a lot of other people as well. You need to stay focused on who you really want to reach. And this is all. I worked with digital for a long time, and I think it's a fantastic way for time for journalism. And I think there's way too many people talking down the journalistic project too much. We really have some great things going on, and it's all a matter of just making sure that people actually pay for it, one way or the other. For us, it's definitely we want to do more subscription. We want to create more journalistic products that has nothing to do with the newspaper we originally were, because we are not that kind of media company anymore. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any question? I have one. Do you have a flat for a subscription or anything like that for the whole service? Or is the more investigative and the bigger story more expensive? So what is the range between and?
Well, we have you can buy the newspaper and the digital daily newspaper in bulk, heavily discounted. Okay. Otherwise, the other products you have to buy separately. And we're not really interested in selling in bulk, because if you sell in bulk, the price goes down, and what's the point of that?
Yeah, sure.
Our journalism is much more valuable than the ordinary yearly subscription price to the newspaper. We're selling our content way too cheaply in this industry.
You are out now in this process you're just talking about with the municipalities, you are out for how many months? 18? How long is that running already?
Well, the municipality thing we've done for quite some time. Actually, we're on year 8.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and that creates close to 10% of the turnover from that editorial content.
Okay. Yeah. Are you changing administration through that? Because it's an investigative approach. You are talking about employees, etc., etc. So are you already realizing that there's this change here and there, reacting to what you discover and reveal?
Yes. One feedback we often get is that basically they try to improve. And we get a lot of requests for me to come and tell them why they are doing so poorly, actually. So which is nice. Yeah.
So you really have background talks also with them, then people come?
Yeah, not background, but public talks, yes.
Public talks,
yeah.
Okay. So thank you very much.